All right, welcome back, everyone, to this mini-series version of Iconic Seasons. Last time, we were talking about the foundation of the Indiana dynasty built by Bob Knight, and we talked about the 1976 season. Today, we're diving into just the time after the 75-76. That we can all agree that that's the pinnacle of IU basketball, maybe of college basketball, period. It wasn't just that great team. We called it a phenomenon. This team was a team that was marked by resilience, individual brilliance, maybe more individual brilliance than even that great 75-76 team. And of course, championship glory. I want to talk about the 1980-81 Indiana Hoosiers. They embodied one of the characteristics that, again, is a theme that we see woven throughout all of these championship teams, and that's perseverance and what that really means. It was more of a roller coaster, though, and as we relive that iconic journey, I think you'll see that throughout the narrative here. The season story comes off a Big Ten title in 79-80, and expectations at this point were through the roof. Preseason polls even had them number one to start the year. The start of the season did nothing to dispel that number one ranking. They started with 4 straight wins and big dreams. But then, as often happens, adversity strikes. They had a tough loss at Kentucky, and that was bad enough. But what really was the blow was, again, the injury bug, where Randy Whitman suffers a season-ending foot stress fracture. And if that wasn't enough, Mike Woodson got sidelined with back surgery shortly after that. Just an absolute gut punch. Lofty preseason aspirations suddenly face the most serious test. Just are in a spiral. Yet they refused to fold. They had this depleted roster, but they battled through the Big Ten season, grinded out a 7-5 conference record. And then something remarkable happened. 7 weeks after back surgery, 7 weeks, Mike Woodson makes his triumphant return against Iowa. Drills his first 3 shots, finishes with 20 points. Where's the minutes restriction here? In a 66-55 victory. It was the kind of comeback moment that makes sports so special. I want to talk a little bit about Woody because he's caught so much fire, but he did what we had all asked, to have a former player come back, a guy who'd had an amazing coaching legacy. I'm not sure he knew what he was stepping into, but he knew what the fans were asking for and stepped into that. And while he may not have fulfilled the expectations that we all had, I certainly think his thoughts were in the right place. And he certainly has given a lot to IU. After this win, the team catches fire. They reel off 6 wins, culminating in what may have been the greatest game ever played in Assembly Hall, the season finale against Ohio State. With everything on the line, both of the teams were tied for the conference title. The arena was described as absolutely electric. Butch Carter calmly sinks 2 pressure-packed free throws to force the overtime, and there was just destiny in the air. Indiana prevails, claiming a 2nd straight Big Ten championship and just an amazing regular season finale. The journey there, though, was far from over. Despite entering the NCAA tournament with 9 losses, the team had something brewing.
We just hit a groove where everybody was in sync. We just knew what we had to do, from the role players to the starters, and it was something out of a movie, I would say, the way we played together. But during that time, yes, we had the most losses at 9, and we weren't really favored to do much. LSU and Virginia and North Carolina were definitely more the favorites, the heavy favorites. We were just a team that kind of scratched and clawed, and we got on a roll. So everybody was aware of us, but not really paying that much attention to us. And that's what made the whole experience that much more rewarding.
The tournament run began with a statement against Maryland, 99-64, where they shot 65% from the field and all 5 starters hit double figures. It wasn't just a win, it was a warning. And I think you can see that sometimes early in the NCAA tournament when a team makes a statement that they're there for a reason. They carried the momentum through to the Midwest Regional, which is at home at Assembly Hall, always nice. dispatched UAB and dismantled St. Joseph's 78-46. That game was so one-sided that the starters lounged on the bench with 3 minutes left on the clock, just grinning. The team was peaking at the right moment, which is often what's needed in the NCAA tournament.
Heading out to Philadelphia, there was an air of confidence, but also a, let's say, weight of responsibility that we put ourselves into a position to win. And I'll never forget leaving Bloomington. That the day we left, the picture of the national championship trophy was in our locker room, in each of our lockers, just a picture of it. And then one of the greatest speeches that I ever heard as we left Bloomington that day. So there's a big board in the locker room that's probably 9 feet by 5 feet. And Coach Knight walked up to the board and he said, "This board represents all the players who have ever played college basketball." And he takes a marker and he puts a dot on the board. And he says, "That dot represents all the players who've ever played college basketball that won a national championship." He said, "You are trying to become part of the dot." And he said, "That's why you come to play basketball at Indiana University."
The Final Four in Philadelphia matched them against LSU, the 4th-ranked SEC championships. The first half was a battle with LSU holding a slim 3-point lead at the break. Adding to the tension, sophomore sensation Isaiah Thomas had picked up 3 fouls, but the second half belonged to Indiana. Landon Turner and Jim Thomas fueled a decisive run that turned a close game into a comfortable 67-49 victory, sending the Hoosiers to the championship game. Now, leading up to the final against North Carolina, the media spotlight focused on the coaching matchup, the legendary Dean Smith versus the fiery Bobby Knight, a clash of basketball royalty. But the morning of March 30th, 1981, Championship Day, brought shocking news that transcended sports. President Ronald Reagan had been shot in an assassination attempt. The Hoosiers players learned about it watching television in their hotel rooms. Amid the national uncertainty, the NCAA deliberated and ultimately decided the game would go on. Coach Knight and his staff masterfully kept the team focused despite the shocking distraction. When the ball finally tipped that night, North Carolina jumped out to an early lead. The situation looked even more precarious when Ted Kitchell picked up 3 quick fouls, but Jim Thomas provided crucial minutes off the bench, steadying the ship. Indiana trailed most of the first half until, as the buzzer sounded, junior Randy Whitman sank an unforgettable corner shot to give the Hoosiers their first lead. That shot changed everything. In the second half, Indiana took control, rolling to a decisive victory and claiming the national championship. Coach Knight's second title and Indiana's 4th overall.
Isaiah Thomas puts up on the clock. So Hoosier fans start to scream again. Here come the reserves off the bench. Jimmy Thomas with the ball to Isaiah. He lost the handle. It's picked up by North Carolina. Down to 15. Braddock fires. It is no good. Rebound tap. No good again. Battles. Perkins puts it up and in. We're down to 9 seconds to go. Now, Woodman inbounds. Here we are. It is over. Indiana wins the national championship for 1981. Unbelievable as the players out on the floor are jumping up and down, hugging one another. Whitman just tossed the ball up in the air after he got it inbounded. And Indiana Max has won the national championship for the 2nd time under Bobby Knight and the 4th time in the school's history.
Unbelievable, Don. That's the only way you can describe this basketball team. They were 7-5 in December, but boy, have they been dynamite as they have come down the stretch. And here in the tournament, this has been the closest they've come to losing, 13 points. Every game prior to this was even more.
Back in Bloomington, more than 10,000 delirious fans welcomed their champions home in an epic celebration. The stars who made it happen this championship season was fueled by exceptional players. 3 stand out above the rest. First was sophomore guard Isaiah Thomas. He had played on that team that was mentioned at the beginning of this with Woody, and he cites that game that Woodson had in Iowa and his comeback game as one of his favorite games of his long and storied career, just witnessing that. So pretty interesting. He was an absolutely dazzling talent. His leadership was undeniable. He was named the most outstanding player of the Final Four and showed that rare ability to elevate his game when the stakes were the highest. Lightning speed, magic ball handling, Kyrie level, and scoring touch made him a nightmare for defenders. Then there was Ted Kitchell. He was super versatile, score, rebound, defend, definitely the heart and soul of this team. His performance against Illinois was one of the most efficient in college basketball history, like Bill Walton level. 13 for 13 from the field, 18 for 18 from the free throw line for 40 points. That is in the zone. Even when foul trouble limited his minutes in the championship game, he still had a presence, and that's kind of important when you go through that adversity. How do you still make it feel like you're there? And of course, you can't forget about Whitman. We mentioned at the start of this that early season injury the previous year, the stress fracture in his foot, he still came back and was unbelievable. Just clutch shooting throughout the campaign, especially a buzzer beater at the end of the first half in that national championship game. Just ice in his veins. Beyond the individual stats, there are some things that highlight why this team's iconic. They captured their second consecutive Big Ten championship and proved their dominance wasn't just a one-year wonder. They demolished Maryland in that opening round, showcasing their firepower. That 65% from the field is something that I'm sure Bob Knight dreamed of many nights before and many nights after. Again, you had Kitchell's perfect night, 13 for 13, 18 for 18 from the free throw line. That is perfection right there. You're always going to fall just short of that after that. Before their first round matchup against the Terrapins, Lefty Driesell didn't know some of the key Hoosier players. Maybe he's entering the end of his career there. Chuck Franz on the Indiana team recalled overhearing him asking his assistants, which one is Tolbert and which one is Turner. That gave the Hoosiers some extra motivation. We're going to crush these guys. And that's just what they did. Jim Thomas, who was also a key contributor, had a premonition months before their championship run. He dreamed about seeing a caption in Sports Illustrated about the other Thomas, referring to himself along Isaiah. The dream made a little sense after they won the title, and Sports Illustrated featured both Thomases on the all Final Four team. Sometimes you can make dreams come true. It's definitely a legacy cementing moment for the Hoosiers. It's not just about one season of success. It solidifies Bob Knight's legacy as one of basketball's greatest coaches. His second national title, it cements Indiana's status as a blue blood program, and absolutely a name synonymous with excellence and tradition. It's a blend of adversity, individual brilliance, and that team spirit that we continue to mention, and remains one of the most cherished chapters in Indiana basketball's history. So what's next? We're going to talk more about perseverance, talent, and teamwork. And our iconic seasons mini-series here isn't quite over. We're going to talk about the shot next. Of course, we've got a longer series on that 1987 team, but we'll hit on a little bit. There's always more to unearth with that season, which is my favorite of the runs, maybe because I remember it the most. But this Cinderella story absolutely defied the odds and left that indelible mark on college basketball history. I know you won't want to miss that one. Until then,
keep your dribble low and your eyes up.